Hello everybody and welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John and today I'm going to be continuing the tour of horror across America, but this time I'm going to be stopping in 2 states instead of 1. I'm going to be stopping first in Connecticut and then I will be stopping or making a stop in Delaware. Now there's a reason for that, and it's going to be like that with a few of them because truth be known, you would think that throughout the years that every single state in the United States has been covered as far as having a horror novel based on it, but that's not always the case. And that was pretty much the case with Delaware. I looked and looked and looked, and the only book that I could find that would be you would think would be horror, which it is a book by S.E. Hinton called Hawks Harbor, which I'll talk about in a few minutes when I get to Delaware State. And I know there's some of you have written and said, well, Fight Club was based in Delaware. Yes, I understand that, but I don't think that Fight Club is a horror novel. That is why I'm not including it, okay? Also, everybody knows the first rule about Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. So I'm shutting up right now about it, okay? Alright, so let's go and get underway with Connecticut. And the first one I'm going to talk about with Connecticut is Slewfoot. And this is a tale of bewitchery, and it is by Brom. Connecticut, 1666. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in their wake. If it is a devil you seek, then it is a devil you shall have. This terrifying tale of bewitchery features more than 24 of Brom's haunting paintings, fully immersing readers in this wild and unforgiving world. And I will tell you right now, I have read Slewfoot. I love Slewfoot. I definitely highly recommend Slewfoot. Alright, so there you go. Okay, next up we have got Thinner, and of course this is written by Stephen King, but when it first came out it was written by Richard Bachman. Then they pretty much outed him, or somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they just kind of figured it out or whatever, so yeah, anyway, Thinner. Attorney Billy Halleck seriously enjoys living his life of upper-class success. He's got it all: an expensive home in Connecticut, a loving family, and 50 extra pounds that his doctor repeatedly warns will be the death of him. Then, in a moment of carelessness, Halleck commits vehicular manslaughter when he strikes a jaywalking old woman crossing the street. But Halleck has some powerful local connections and gets off with a slap on the wrist, much to the fury of the woman's mysterious and ancient father, who exacts revenge with a single word: thinner. Now a terrified Halleck finds the weight once so difficult to shed dropping effortlessly and rapidly by the week. Soon there will be nothing left of Billy Halleck, unless he can somehow locate the source of his living nightmare and reverse what's happened to him before he utterly wastes away. And that was Thinner, and that was by Richard Bachman, or Stephen King writing as Richard Bachman. Okay, next up we have got The Stepford Wives, and this is by Ira Levin. And I got my cat back here. I'm watching to make sure he behaves himself, and he is so far. Alright, Stepford Wives. For Joanna, her husband Walter, and their children, the move to beautiful Stepford seems almost too good to be true. It is, for behind the town's idyllic facade lies a terrible secret, a secret so shattering that no one who encounters it will ever be the same. And that is The Stepford Wives, and that is by Ira Levin, who of course wrote Rosemary's Baby. And I'm pretty sure when I get to New York, I'm going to be including Rosemary's Baby in the New York recommendations, okay? Alright. Next up we have got Harvest Home, and this is by Thomas Tryon. After watching his asthmatic daughter suffer in the foul city air, Theodore Constantine decides to get back to the land. When he and his wife search New England for the perfect 19th century home, they find no township more charming, no countryside more idyllic than the farming village of Cornwall Coombe. Here they begin a new life, simple, pure, close to nature, and ultimately more terrifying than Manhattan's darkest alley. When the Constantines win the friendship of the town matriarch, the mysterious widow Fortune, they are invited to join the ancient festival of Harvest Home, a ceremony whose quaintness disguises dark intentions. In this bucolic hamlet, where bootleggers work by moonlight and all of the villagers seem to share the same last name, the past is more present than outsiders can fathom, and something far more sinister than the annual harvest is about to rise out of the earth. Credited as the inspiration for Stephen King's Children of the Corn, Thomas Tryon's chilling novel was ahead of its time when first published and continues to provoke abject terror in readers. And that is Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon. Okay, next up we have got Feast, and this is by Graham Masterton, and it's got a very short synopsis here. Okay. A restaurant critic and his young son visit a New England eatery in Allen's Corners where, unknown to outsiders, children are being abducted and devoured by evil forces. That is the synopsis for Feast by Graham Masterton. Okay. Alright, next and last but not least for Connecticut, we've got Floating Dragon by Peter Straub. Now, the one thing about Peter Straub is that I'm not necessarily a fan of Peter Straub, but I do respect his output. I respect that he's a very good writer. It's just that I myself can't always seem to get into his writing. I think I've only read 2 books by Peter Straub, and they were both co-written, or 1 book by Peter Straub. I read Ghost Story years ago. I read The Talisman with Stephen King, but I just seem to always have trouble, and I do have some Peter Straub to read. I mean, I just can't seem to find the right one, you know. Anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, we're going to be talking about Floating Dragon, alright? The quiet suburban town of Hampstead is threatened by 2 horrors. One is natural, the hideous, unstoppable creation of man's power gone mad. The other is not natural at all, and it makes the first look like child's play. And that is the synopsis for Floating Dragon by Peter Straub. Don't let what I said about Straub sway whether you want to read him or not. If it sounds like a good book to you, then please, by all means, pick it up, read it, enjoy it, review it, whatever you want to do with it, okay? Alright, so that was it for Connecticut. So, like I said, I only have 1 book for the state of Delaware, and that is Hawks Harbor, and this is by S.E. Hinton, who, of course, you know, wrote The Outsiders, and what was that other book? The Outsiders. I can't think of the other book. I know they were both directed by Francis Ford Coppola. I just cannot think of the other book. So if somebody remembers it, please let me know. An orphan and a bastard, Jamie grew up tough enough to handle almost anything. He survived foreign prisons, smugglers, pirates, gun runners, and shark attacks. But what he finds in the quiet town of Hawks Harbor, Delaware, was enough to drive him almost insane and change his life forever. And that is Hawks Harbor, and that is by S.E. Hinton. Alright, so that is going to do it for Connecticut and Delaware. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tour of horror across America. I'm trying to think where we're going to be stopping next. I believe the next place I'm going to be stopping is sunny Florida. Alright, so until then, take care and stay scared. Thank you. Bye-bye.